Welcome to the Voice of Putnam County Business. This is the podcast of the Putnam County Business Council, where we will be discussing all things related to Putnam County business climate and economic development in the county. We have Nick DeAndrea, General Manager of Park Ford. He is a director of the Putnam County Business Council, and also Nat Prentice of Prentice Investment Management, LLC. Nat is also the president of the Putnam County Business Council and also president of the Cold Spring Chamber of Commerce. We will welcome our host right after a brief message from our sponsor.
When Country Willow Furniture found people staying at home instead of furnishing their homes during the pandemic, the store worried about the loans that fueled their dramatic growth. But Tompkins Bank knew that solid relationships, like solid furniture, last far into the future. The value of a bank in your corner, the values of a bygone era. Tompkins gives you both, and the best banking relationship you'll ever have. Tompkins, your bank of choice. Find out more at tompkinsbank.com.
Back on the Voice of Putnam County Business once again with my counterpart, Nat Prentice. Nat, how you doing today?
Nick, just special well, particularly since I get a chance to be with you again.
We love it. We love it.
Awfully good news here. You're a great co-host.
I appreciate it.
Well, we're fortunate today to have a person from Putnam County that not everybody knows, particularly to the extent a good portion of our audience is listening to us from the eastern part of the county. But on the west, we have a really important, calling it an old house would not be doing it proper, but we have the executive director of what's called Boscobel House and Gardens, and the and gardens part is really quite important too because of the grounds. Jennifer Carlquist with us. And Jennifer, welcome. We're delighted to have you. We're delighted to help our audience know more about you and know more about Boscobel. So why don't you start by just telling us how'd you get to Boscobel? You didn't grow up around here.
Sure, you're right. It's so nice to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I get so many items of good advice from Nat, and one of them is always come to the eastern side of the country. This is another instance of that. So thank you so much, Nat. So I came to Boscobel in 2015 as the curator because my background is in design history, and Boscobel has one of the best collections anywhere in the country of New York furniture. And at this moment in the early 1800s, New York was at the top of the furniture making business. It was a beauty, it was an art, it was an important industry. And that's something that I'd studied, and the best place to do that is at Boscobel. So I was teaching at SUNY New Paltz. I had graduated from the Cooper Hewitt with a design history degree, and it was a dream job for just a couple of days a week. And then within 3 years, I was invited to take a stint as the executive director. So I stepped into that role, and really it's just been the highlight of my 30+ year museum career, is to be at the helm at Boscobel, which is such an exciting, dynamic, and ever-changing place. So I came for the furniture and I stayed for so much more.
Well, tell us how it's certainly, I mean, if it's New York State furniture, Nick might come once a year. But we could have him more often than that because there's so much else going on at Boscobel. So tell us some of the directions that you, in your time, have taken Boscobel House and Gardens, and tell us about some of the directions you've taken it in.
I will do. Thanks, Nat. Well, and of course, you know better than anyone because your mother was a guide at Boscobel, so I'm sure she would give. And our
that's going back a ways.
our guide's really special. So what I'll say is Boscobel's mission is to celebrate and share Hudson Valley design, history, and nature, and we're really leaning into that nature part and have been for the last 5 years or so. So our beautiful gardens, which are also tended by the Phillipstown Garden Club, a team of volunteers, they're really carefully curated to teach you something about gardens in the past, about farms in the past, about how people lived with plants and used plants. They're also gorgeous. We've got 112 acres on the most beautiful stretch of the Hudson River with one of America's most beautiful views. We also partner with Davern Farm, an organic farm across the road on Boscobel property, and they produce something like 15,000 pounds of produce for local food pantries every year. We host the weekly Cold Spring Farmers Market all year round, and that can be 1,000 people coming for locally grown produce, and it helps the growers, it helps local families, and it really adds vibrancy to the site. So there's just so much more. And we also specialize in the highest quality and caliber of performance art. So things like musical concerts. We just had 700 people on the lawn for the Greater Newburgh Symphony Orchestra on July 4th. It was such an inspiring concert. We cheered on our West Point neighbors across the river. And then in September, we have an annual Chamber Music Festival with the world's greatest musicians. And they come and they soak up all that inspiration and they share it with the rest of us from that incredibly beautiful, special place. So there's the furniture is the core, I would say, of the quality level that we aspire to do. And we make sure that we permeate that across every experience, making sure that we're really fostering lifelong learning and connection with that place and the people you came with.
So, Jennifer, is it true? And if so, how did you determine this? That Boscobel is the most visited site, cultural site in Putnam County?
It is. So Boscobel averages around 80,000 guests on site per year, which is pretty big, especially for Putnam County. And we've been in Putnam County as that cultural anchor since 1961. So it's both in terms of visitation per year and longevity. But the house was originally built in Westchester County. It was built in Montrose between 1804 and 1808. The house was demolished in 1955, sold to a wrecker for $35, but it was just considered too beautiful to lose. So neighbors, community members, preservationists, architects got together and managed to buy back as many bits and pieces as they could. They stored them in barns and garages, and then they were able to resurrect it in Putnam County on the most glorious site so that it could be everyone's home on the Hudson. So we just celebrated our 60th anniversary as a museum.
Yeah, even if you don't like the furniture part, or if that's just a portion of interest, the grounds are spectacular.
And that's
You
what I
really
heard.
do need to come for a walk around.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I mean, I saw you in the hallway before we
Yeah,
started.
look at the look you're getting from Jeff.
I know.
He's just a he's just a turtle.
Hold on, bear with me for a second. So, and this is my own fault, but I didn't.
Kidding.
I didn't know about Boscobel until probably 2 years ago. Is when I found out, and I think it was at a Putnam County Business Council event that I think it might have been at the breakfast that we had done. Is when I found out about it, and like I told you outside, I have your business card at my desk that I'm telling you I see all the time, and it's on my bucket list. Again, we talk about it a lot about the separation sometimes from between one side of the county to the other, and I just don't get over there that often, but I need to, and I'm gonna make it a point to.
Well, and it's really my job to reach out to you, because one of the joys of my job and really being at Boscobel these few years is that it's our goal to really break down the barriers also for demographics.
Mhm.
So maybe you as a young single guy don't have as many opportunities to get to Boscobel with children, or elderly people. Your father's hardly elderly, right? but older parents, people often come as a multi-generational family group.
Mhm.
So, or they come with their school group, or they come with their garden club, or so maybe we just haven't found that sweet spot for you.
Yeah.
But do you like to go hiking?
I do, yeah.
You've got a 22-acre woodland trail. You got to come for that.
Yeah, see that to me is great. That to me is fantastic. And you touched on the garden stuff. So it's a passion of mine. It's a passion of
You're
mine.
big.
I'm big into gardening. I'm big into plants. One thing I wanted to ask you was the plants that are grown there and that you see there, are they specific to this region? Do they go outside of what we normally grow in this area? What kind of plants are we looking at?
What a great question. Well, we're so lucky too that Boscobel, because we're in Putnam County, we're surrounded by amazing, smart, expert partners that we can draw on, like the Putnam County's Office of the Cornell Cooperative Extension.
We've had Stephanie on our podcast, Stephanie Humor, and we learned a lot about the extension that neither of us knew before.
Yeah. It's such a great resource. And so we turned to them just in the last year and developed a horticulture plan with them. We partner really closely with the Phillipstown Garden Club. They are passionate historians and gardeners. And so most of the plants that are at Boscobel and growing at Boscobel were known and popular between 1800 and 1820. And we've even made sure that we include popular plants for Native Americans, for African American cooks that we're cultivating at that time, and really draw that out as a teaching experience. We're planting right now a whole acre meadow to really highlight the stewardship models of Native Americans, the Lenape people in our region, and it's going to be a totally new kind of stewardship and a totally new kind of beauty to come. So we're just planting the seeds literally this week. And in 5 years, it's going to be gorgeous.
Well, I'm not gonna wait 5 years to come see you. I'll come sooner. But that sounds very, very interesting. It's so cool. Again, it was just something I just didn't know about. And I'm excited to go visit.
Yep.
I'm excited to then spread the word because I'm sure I'm not gonna be disappointed.
And come for a special garden tour. Right now, we're really highlighting the grounds, especially because Boscobel had a major disaster this spring. One of the ceilings of the Historic House Museum collapsed without warning, and mean that the Historic House Museum has been closed since April. So that meant let's marshal the troops and make sure we pivot and launch some gardens and grounds tours so that we can hook all of the people who don't know how much learning there is to do outdoors as much as there is indoors. So you got to come for a garden tour. And many of the tour givers are also the gardeners. So they're volunteer gardeners who come and tend those grounds.
So Jen, we got to dwell on this for a minute because
Yes, sir.
this is really such testimony to your ability to adapt and do what you need to do to bring people. I mean, that's, again, we don't want to dwell on your misfortune, but as you said, you have said to me, you've made lemonade out of some lemons. In that case, I hadn't thought about it quite the way that if you can't come to the house, we're going to have to find a lot of other things that we can do for you. That's very resourceful of you.
Well, I so appreciate that, Nat. And I have to say too, our local Chamber of Commerce in Cold Spring has been such a great resource. They didn't give up on us. They still brought a meeting to Boscobel. They even gave us a grant for resiliency, which was so meaningful. And we've got people pouring in with $5 and $10 and $50 donations to kind of help us through this rough point. At the same time, membership is bigger than ever. So we've gotten 100 more members just in the last year, member households that are pledging to support Boscobel, visit Boscobel, and really help keep it beautiful and share it with everybody. So there are so many silver linings, and we have a lot of great silver too that I think. But in this time, we're also moving objects out of the house into the visitor center. That's a place where anyone, it's free to come and look at these, gorgeous things that used to be kind of locked up in the house. Maybe you want to buy a ticket again when we've got the house open. In the meantime, come to the visitor center. It's free to everybody. So 2 new exhibitions there. And those gardens and grounds tours are really amazing. It's a way to kind of retain and honor our expert enthusiasts, our great guide staff. And it's a way to connect to people while they're here, because as much as the place is adored and beloved and always has been, it also is the people that people come to Boscobel for, that personal experience with a human who wants to know what you're interested about, and they can't wait to show you.
So Jen, talk about your management style, the kinds of things that our listeners would benefit from. I mean, you happen to be in the culture and hospitality and entertainment business. We've had guests in the car business. We've had guests in the restaurant business. Tell me the principles by which you operate, and how many people are on your team, and how do you get the best out of the team that works there at Boscobel?
Sure. What a great question, Nat. And I have to say, the museum business, it seems like a niche,
that's
right?
what you're in. You're in the museum.
It seems like a niche, right? It kind of intersects with education, with tourism, with retail, with hospitality. Like you said, we've got a really robust rental program. We've got a lovely design shop where we feature local crafts. We rent out aspects of the site for film and photo shoots, for weddings, anything you can, for corporate events. So there's a lot of facets to that business. But really, I would say, what do we get to do at Boscobel is we get to be professionally curious. And that's curious about the place, curious about the things, and more than anything, curious about the people who come here and what would make them have a really meaningful experience. So that's what is a huge privilege, to be professionally curious. And I learn something every day. And my role is to really facilitate everybody continuing on their own learning journeys. And that's the people who come, as well as the folks who I get to work with. It's a partnership between, the board and the staff. And that's something that we're always kind of tinkering with, that we've got strengths on both sides and we want to utilize all of those strengths. And I'll say 2 chambers of commerce have been really helpful to me because yes, I came to Boscobel as an expert in what museums do and how they do it and the objects that they do it with. But that idea of learning from the corporate sector on management has been really helpful to me. So even in the past year through the Business Council of Westchester, I've attended several courses and programs through that have really been helpful to me and help me compare notes, whether it's someone who's like an ophthalmologist or someone, you know, in a totally different sector. So many of the issues are similar, and it's really helpful to be part of that larger business community.
Well, it's good, and kudos to you for not just resting on the museum side, but trying to learn about management techniques and structures beyond the museum side and bring it in. And you've done a remarkable job of turning things to the extent they need to be. For example, there once was a theater festival that performed all summer long, and some of those people would claim that a lot of the visitors came because of them rather than Boscobel, but they're not there anymore. Tell us how you manage that transition away from having the Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival at Boscobel.
Too, and I have to say it's I'd say not a side business, but partnerships are really important for any nonprofit, and we're also in the business of partnerships. And that was a 30+ year partnership that Boscobel is engaged in. And in a way, we're really proud to have been the incubator site for the Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival. They came with like what, 2 tents and 3 ladders, you know.
One actor living in somebody else's house.
And because they were nurtured and supported and had this incredible site to grow at, they turned into what they were. Even attracting totally new nonprofits and cultural sites, like the wonderful founders of Magazino. How did they get to Garrison? They fell in love with Boscobel. So we take a great deal of pride in being a magnet for cultural activity, a magnet for new residents, a magnet for new business owners to come and really build their roots here, because Boscobel's roots are something that we want everybody to take part in and enjoy. So those partnerships are really critical. The pivot, though, we do miss those people, you know, and they can absolutely still come to Boscobel, still picnic on the lawn, still enjoy those sunsets, and we're thrilled about that. And we know from their visitor surveys that picnicking experience of enjoying that site was really one of the highlights of that experience. Everyone can still have that, which is great. And at the same time, we're cheering on the Shakespeare Festival as they're up on the hill in the new site. With their departure, it was absolutely a gulp at Boscobel. It really required us to change our operating model, to change our fiscal model, but it's an enormous opportunity for both organizations. They get to grow, spread their wings, have their own agency. They're becoming stewards for the first time. They never even had to mow the lawn before. And now they have 60 some acres, and we're cheering them on. And at Boscobel, it means I have 150 days back on our calendar.
Yeah.
And that whole site to really embody the beauty that is the Hudson Valley, that is so specific to this place.
So one of the things that you talked about was the visitors and how the place is so attractive to so many people. So talk to me about who comes there. I mean, I can't imagine it's just people in Putnam County. I'm sure that people come from far and wide to see Boscobel and from all walks of life.
They absolutely do. And your demographic is the toughest get, I have to say. So yeah, single, younger professionals, that's something it's still enough that we have to crack. So I'll say that the largest sector of our audience are multi-generational visitors. So it's families, it's grandparents, children, adult children, and minor children. It's school groups, it's garden clubs, it's subject specialists, it's couples. And really we divide between those neighbors and community members within the 45-minute radius, those subject specialists who are coming to learn about a specific thing like the gardens or architecture or design or school groups. And then also people who come for a specific event, like a signature event like Apple Fest, which is in October, or the Chamber Music Festival. So something that they know on their calendar.
Mm-hmm.
I always go to Twilight tours in the holidays. I'm marking that on the calendar. And what I'll say is we're in the process of surveying our visitors post-COVID, because there really is an evolution and a shift, and more of our visitors are locals. It used to be about 30% were local and 70% were from away. We think that that shift is changing, and in part, it's because of those partnerships with the farmers market, for instance.
Yeah.
Family ritual every Saturday. You're there every Saturday.
It's the social hub of Phillipston, because everybody lives in the woods, in Phillipston, and comes to the farmer's market.
And we're really food desert. We have one grocery store for 3,500 households. So it also really is an important lifeline for families. And boy, oh boy, did we learn that during COVID. So we're at a point where we're kind of gathering together and evaluating all those COVID lessons, continuing on with those programs that I never thought as a furniture historian I would need to know about farmers markets, but I am so glad that I'm at an organization that's elastic and broad-minded and really creative to think about what does it make sense for a museum to do in 2024. It's really different than it was even 10 years ago, and vastly different than it was when we were founded. And that's an exciting place to be.
I'm thinking of executive directors of Boscobel that I've known over my lifetime, and none of them talked about it the way you do.
Well,
It's a different adaptive mission, and you've needed to, but you've done so.
that's so nice to hear. I really admire all of those folks, and I would have, been really privileged to work for all of them. So I, read their notes in the files, and I think, oh, that would have been a good idea. And just every now and then I steal one of them. So yeah, we learn a lot from our eminence grades at Boscobel, and there's always wisdom in the past. And how do you make that relevant for now and really propel that in a way that attracts new people? So we got to work harder to get you there, Nick.
Well, I think honestly, and like I said, it's
Don't say box drawing.
no, actually,
Activity in the 1800s, so
okay, so maybe but yeah, I think honestly, it's a great opportunity for me to help. Like I said, it's been a bucket list place for me to visit. So I'm excited to come. I'm excited to see you there. I'm excited to help bridge the gap between my demographic.
That'd be
To
great.
go there. Because I can tell you right now, from what I've seen online and what I've heard from so many people that have been there, that it amazes everybody. So I'm sure my demographic would still be amazed and still be very happy to come visit. So I don't think that the to bridge the gap is too hard. I think we can do it. It's just a matter of reaching the right people.
I love that. And for service parts department and service department, I know they're just so praised and highly valued. Like, bring them over and we'll take a look at all the mechanical furniture and how it opens and closes and responds to you. And there's a lot of mechanical, ingenuity involved in that old furniture. And I think your guys would really appreciate it. So
I'm sure they would.
there's definitely something for you.
Did you mention the shopping? Hello.
Again, that's the voice of Jennifer Marr, our founding chairwoman at the Putnam County Business Council, a regular visitor to Boscobel. Jen, any comment about your visits?
Oh, it's just it's my favorite destination, Putnam County, no doubt. But I got to know it really, on a different level when we did, Mary Ellen Odell and I did
Those
the small business. I mean, we were dropped some pretty pennies because both of us would find so many amazing things to buy in that gift shop, like stuff that you don't see anywhere else that has, like the gift you brought me today. I mean, it's so special.
Oh, that was
with
so
meaning.
sweet.
Yeah, she made me cry. But yeah, no, if you're thinking of something like that, like go there and get unique gifts, for those people that are hard to buy for.
Funny those.
It's part of what we do in our family.
It's it really special, and it's a high bar of, what do you have in a place that's so beautiful? And what we like to do is just like the permanent collection, we want to highlight creativity and quality and make it something that's personal and meaningful. So, and make it approachable. So, you may think that nobody is that passionate about furniture, but I always say furniture is one of the few art forms that everybody makes choices about every day, all day long. You decided which chair to sit in.
Yeah.
You decided how to sit in that chair. You decided, is it swivel or not?
I don't give furniture enough credit.
Well, it's so familiar to you, and that's one of the great powers of a museum like Boscobel. Is it's not foreign objects on the wall. These are things you live intimately with, you love at your house, and you can love them at Boscobel too, and learn something new about how they evolved. So, why are there so many different chairs? You can come and find out, why does this one not look like that one? one, and which one would you choose? So there's an intimacy factor to those rooms, and they're just so drop dead gorgeous and famous all over the country. We've got them right here in our backyard, so we're really lucky.
So Jen, before we let
Yes,
we
sir.
let you go, tell us about the name so we'll remember. What does it mean? How did it come to be? Is it Dutch? Is it
What a smart idea. Bizarrely, Boscobel was built for a Dutch descendant family, the Dijkman family. They arrived in Manhattan in the 1600s and eventually worked their way up the Hudson River. The name Boscobel was dreamed up by the owner and the dreamer of Boscobel. His name was States Dijkman. And the name is an Italian word, and it means beautiful woods. So you remember that woodland trail. And he named it after a famous estate in England. And gets a little complicated, but States Dijkman was a loyalist. There was a famous loyalist estate in England called Boscobel. And it's where during the first English Civil War, remember our revolution was the second one.
Yeah.
The first English Civil War.
1600s, yeah.
That's exactly right. The king at the time hid in a tree, the Boscobel oak. So a big grand oak tree on the Boscobel estate in England. So our Boscobel was named after that Boscobel as a way of saying this is where royalty and gentility and English values could be sheltered. So we were a loyalist site, and that's perfect cue to say what we're working on now, which is really gearing up the 250th commemoration of the American Revolution.
Yeah.
It's going to be big. It's going to be huge. And you don't get all sides of that war and that conflict and those perspectives if you don't come to Boscobel, one of the very few loyalist sites that still talk about that perspective. Yeah. So States Dijkman, he adopted the Boscobel oak as his personal emblem. It's on a snuff box. It's on the dessert service dishes. It's on his book plate. And so many people, don't actually ask that question. So we're the English style house for a Dutch family with an Italian name built for America. That's exactly
Melting pot, for sure.
so we're it's a complicated history, and we're just so thrilled to be a loyalist site with the most patriotic view in America, overlooking West Point, and where so much American Revolutionary War history happened, the Andre and Arnold affair. There's just so much to learn about, and really exciting. Our section of the Hudson River was the key to the continent, according to George Washington. And we like to consider ourselves, Boscobel, the key to the county.
And we're going to do this all over again over the course of the next couple of years, right? To remember all those good things.
That's exactly right. And even the ones, it's important.
Yeah.
It's, Americans
right.
really
Yeah,
trust museums.
Yeah.
And
even the bad ones.
And even the bad ones. So we're so thrilled to be in a position to kind of excite everybody again about being an American and being a citizen and being a well-informed citizen. So.
Well, you excited me to be a member, so send me the link. Don't, because I'm gonna say, I kind of I don't really like Shakespeare that much. It's okay. Okay, that's just,
Not your thing.
I
That's okay.
enjoy it, but I always went because I would go to Boscobel.
Yeah.
And they got
Love
me
to
there.
have you.
And I did enjoy it because watching them, they're just an amazing crew.
They
doing
are.
what they do, but it really was about the view. It was about the venue.
I believe so too.
Yeah.
Well,
For me, they do, I'm not knocking Shakespeare, Hudson, there's been spectacular.
You don't
but-
knock anybody.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not, that may not.
We're- to have you. It's
Yes.
just as beautiful as
Yeah.
ever. There's always something
Well,
new.
and
to
then you
see.
got skin in the game and you get over there because this stuff is so important, all of
That's
it.
right. Well, thank you so much for.
Jen, we're
hosting.
loving
My
having
goodness.
you. Thank you for your willingness to come across
Yeah.
to the other
Yeah.
side
Such a pleasure.
and do it, because
I'm excited to
I'm
get there.
flattered.
I really am.
Yeah.
It's been,
We've got a team.
Absolutely,
That's-
absolutely. You will see me.
I love that. And bring all your Ford folks over. We'd love to
Absolutely.
have
We're gonna
them.
set up an event. It has to
I
happen.
know that actually, that you guys would do really well then.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Voice of Putnam County Business. Let's hear a word from our sponsor. Thanks for tuning in to the Voice of Putnam County Business, brought to you by Putnam County Business Council. We are sponsored today by the Promenade on 6. Promenade on 6 is a small business hub that is set in an industrial, modern, contemporary place that is proudly showcasing all different kinds of small businesses. You have to check it out. Go to promenadeon6.com and you will get an idea of what Promenade on 6 is. And also brought to you by Park Ford. Park Ford is located right on Route 6 in Mayapack. If you are interested in purchasing a vehicle, you're going to reach out to Nick D'Andrea, 914-774-0036. But I can tell you that I have personally bought and sold, I think, about 5 vehicles with Park Ford. In fact, I have bought cars that are not Fords through them just for the fact that I don't want to deal with any other service department. These guys are world class, whether it comes to buying and selling vehicles or getting your vehicles serviced. Park Ford.